Next, we have Boum, founder and CEO of Daba Finance, and a man without a first name. He effortlessly navigates French, English, and German. Recognized by Forbes as a 30 under 30 honoree for his groundbreaking work with Daba Finance, he's also a former under 16 breaststroke vice champion and an enthusiastic tennis and football player. Under his leadership, Daba Finance is pioneering investments in Africa, offering the continent's first multi-asset investment platform. In his talk, From Vision to Action, How Showing Up Creates Opportunity, Boum shares his story about how taking action can open up doors to incredible opportunities. You're on, Boum.
So what if I told you that the difference between dreaming and achieving is as simple as showing up? Nelson Mandela said, "It always seems impossible until it's done." I recently was in Douala where at a conference they had that quote plastered everywhere on the banners, posters, and it reminded me of the fact that we very easily forget that everything that we witness today once did not exist. Everything that you take for granted today was once deemed impossible. Cars, planes, the phones you hold, AI. Every tradition we celebrate today was once the exception. Every norm was once abnormal. It always seems impossible until it's done. Today I stand before you not just as a testament of these words, but also as proof that one person's action can indeed transform the world, or at least a part of it. Though I believe that my personal journey is very far from over, I thought that it would be valuable to share a couple extracts of my journey with you here today. How many of you believe that showing up, irrespective of your background or the size of your ambition, can make the biggest difference in your life, business, or even in your personal relationships? Thank you. Awesome. Well, today I want to share how just by being present turned my vision into actions that are not only shaping my personal life, but also today, the continent. And hopefully by the end of this, you will feel challenged to create the world you want to live in rather than just living in the world created by others. A brief introduction about myself. So I'm Boum, originally from Cameroon, born in Germany and lived in the vibrant city of Douala. Here are my parents. Both medical doctors. My mom is a physician, my dad is a neurosurgeon. Coming from very, very humble beginnings, I just had the opportunity again to visit the village, to be reminded where our family journey started. In my household, dedication, entrepreneurship, grit has always been part of the day-to-day. I grew up in a home where entrepreneurship was not just only a concept, but a way of life. My parents, both avid entrepreneurs, instilled into me values. These values of academic excellence, curiosity, and the importance, most importantly, of cultural diversity. This approach or this way of life shaped how I see life and how I approach business. From a very early age, I was always pushed to excel academically, gathering numerous honors throughout my schooling in Cameroon. That eventually took me to the US to pursue a bachelor's in computer science and a minor in information technology and software engineering. That was, for me, the beginning of my journey in the world of technology and finance. Upon graduating, I went on to work for NASDAQ as a fintech software engineer, where I honed my skills around investment intelligence and analytics. Yet, even while I was in this corporate world, making the corporate ladder progress, I still felt pulled towards the entrepreneurial drive, the need to build something of myself, which led me to start my first company in the US, which was a travel tech business, where essentially Airbnb for business travel, where we offered hotel-style stays in private homes for business travelers. I was working full-time, and I started a company in a city where, as a African in the US with no roots, it's much harder to sign a deal, get a contract, get a lease, convince a landlord or a building to give you real estate for you to run your business. I had to show up for myself, negotiate these contracts. That company made over $1 million in 2 years. I grew that while working full time. Unfortunately, at the peak of the pandemic, I had to let it go. But really the story here, and through this talk, I would like to share a few instances whereby showing up for myself has helped me always unlock the next level in my own personal journey. So I've always been very entrepreneurial. At the age of 12, I was organizing kid parties. You know, people would come at the door, pay a little fee, oftentimes the parents. They would pay a little fee, and at the end, I would cover my expenses, and I'd go back with some money. I did that from 12 to 16. At 16, I went on to start a tutoring business. I was tutoring people in maths, physics, chem, French, English. At 20, I was writing business plans for local companies in Cameroon. I'm giving you these examples just to kind of like tell you I've always been an entrepreneur. But oftentimes, these businesses were just for me to kind of make a quick buck. So when I got to the US and I felt that urge that I described earlier, I wanted to build something bigger, something better. So I started the Airbnb business. But unfortunately, that experience was rapidly cut short by COVID that specifically impacted the travel industry. We went from making over $100,000 in monthly recurring revenue to zero in less than 2 days upon the declaration of a state of pandemic. I'll never forget that day. It was March 12th, 2020. I then decided that I had to build something that I was truly passionate about, something for the continent. I did not know what, but I knew it had to focus on Africa. So my now co-founder and I started this organization called Africa Startup Lab, where we're offering entrepreneurial support to entrepreneurs across the African continent, giving free mentorship, online specifically. Then we realized that it wasn't all about just the capacity, but it was more so about the financing, the money. Where's the money coming from? Where's the money going? We went through an accelerator, and that is the accelerator, us pitching at the end of that accelerator. And those were the inceptions of Daba. Daba today is setting itself to be Africa's first multi-asset investment platform. When you talk Africa, a lot of people will laugh you out of the room. They're like, it's too risky. Why are you doing business there? I mean, you got this fancy degree. Why don't you just go get a cushy job? I mean, you'd be fine. But it's often the calling, right? I mean, a lot of people that build here, they truly are passionate about what they're doing. I had to show up for myself and say, no, I'm going to forego this path that you are offering me, but rather build something that I'm truly passionate about. I remember this specific pitch competition. A lot of the investors, this is happening in Chicago, a lot of the investors in the room had never invested in any African business. They all applauded the idea of building an investment platform for Africa, but truly did not connect with what it meant for the continent. Upon leaving that room, I knew that there was applause, but no check was going to follow through. This event, though, allowed us to get introduced to the Discover Financial Services FinTech competition, which shortly after gave us our first angel check that allowed us to go on to the next step of our journey. The other example that I'd like to share here is my co-founder and I driving down to Tennessee He drives down from Miami, 8 hours down to Atlanta. He then takes me to Tennessee about 4 hours. To this pitch competition would be selected for, again, an audience that is not familiar with Africa. I go on stage, deliver what a lot of people in the audience would say was honestly the strongest pitch there, humbly. But we walk away without the check. And one of the judges comes out and say, honestly, everybody in the judging room was rooting for you, but unfortunately, we don't understand Africa. I showed up at that event, wanting to convince an audience to believe in the future of building investment infrastructure for Africa, did not walk out with the check, but in that audience, we found our lead investor for the next round that we were looking to raise. We showed up for ourselves. I'm a little short on time, but I'll move on to say, as I reflect on my personal journey and the path that Daba Finance has taken, I'm reminded every day that the universal principles that guide each and every one of us are resilience and the ability to take action. Those are not just buzzwords, but they are, in my opinion, the bedrock of transformative change when you want to build something, when you want to create a future for yourself. And in founding Daba, we envisioned a platform that not only simplifies investments across Africa, but also democratizes it for everyone, regardless of their location and their background, so that they can share and participate in the continent's growth. Our vision extends beyond financial transactions. It's creating a sustainable and inclusive economic future. Through Daba, we're making it possible for ordinary individuals to invest in ventures that were once out of reach, bridging the gap between capital and opportunity. I took action. I showed up for myself, and I show up every day for my team, for my family, for my mates, for my peers. As I look ahead, I see Daba not just as a fintech platform, but as a catalyst for economic empowerment across Africa. And as we expand, our mission remains clear: to enable every African, at home or in the diaspora, to build wealth and contribute to our continent's prosperity. Today, as we stand here all at the crossroads of potential and action, the realization, I urge each of you to embrace the power of just showing up. Let's not be spectators in the narrative of tomorrow, but instead, let us be the architects of a new era. Engage, innovate, invest in the dreams that fuel your individual and collective futures. If we each take one step towards action, together we can transform not only our lives, our families, our communities, our continent. As for me, I will continue building an African future where I believe that opportunity knows no bounds. So I ask you, will you show up for your own vision? Thank you.